Hello, and welcome to another episode of It's a History Podcast. I am your host, Madison, and this week, after a rather dark episode last week, we are going to be looking at the most controversial of all Halloween candies, candy corn. Where did this candy come from? Where does the controversy come from? In today's episode, we are going to answer these questions. This episode will also fall into the take some parts of this with a grain of salt territory. So with that in mind, let's get right into it. Candy corn came about in the 1880s during a time when many candy makers were making slurries of mallow cream and molding the mixtures into various shapes, leaning more toward shapes that were common agricultural products. Popular shapes included pumpkins, chestnuts, and turnips. And there was a reason for this too. At the time these candies were being made, farmers made up about 1/2 of the entire labor force in the US. Candy companies would make these agricultural-based candies to pander to farm workers and their children. And these were an all-year candy, not just for fall consumption. Now, the subject of today's episode, candy corn, is reported to have come about through the hands of George Renninger, who was an employee at a candy company in Philadelphia. Candy corn was the first of this type of candy to have 3 different layered colors. The sugar and corn syrup recipe was picked up by the Goylette's Candy Company, better known today as the Jelly Belly Company, starting in 1898. Being picked up by a national brand really helped to popularize the candy. The Jelly Belly Company called their new candy chicken feed. Prior to World War I, corn was not something that most Americans thought of as people food. Corn was really only used for chickens and other livestock feed. Now, corn has been something that has been eaten by people for hundreds of years at this point, but the corn that had been grown in this era was coarse and gritty, not the same as the sweet corn that we eat today. Candy corn continued to keep its chicken branding well after World War I, with packaging from the 1920s having a rooster and the motto, "King of the Candy Corn Fields" on it. And at this point, candy corn was still considered a year-round candy, falling into the penny candy category. Penny candy was candy that could be bought in bulk for relatively cheap and was popular with children as they got more bang for their buck. It wasn't until the 1950s when Halloween started to become a more popular holiday and candy started to become something that was associated with the holiday. Candy corn moved away from being an around-the-year candy to a candy that was designated as a Halloween or fall candy. But what even is candy corn? Surprisingly, or maybe not, candy corn is still made largely the same as it was when it was first concocted. The biggest difference is that instead of candy makers hand making the candies, they are made by machine. The candy corn mixture is a mix of sugar, fondant, corn syrup, and vanilla, with its technical flavor being buttercream. This mixture is then piped into cornstarch molds by machines. When it is set, the candy is released from the cornstarch molds and then put into a candy drum where it is coated in a shellac. So that's the history of candy corn, and while we're here, we might as well look at the history of penny candy as well. Generally individually wrapped and at one point in time costing only a penny, penny candy after its introduction to the world was a hit with both children who had money to burn and adults looking for something sweet. Like most popular things, especially in the US, the driver for penny candy was and still is money and the capitalistic nature of our country. In the 19th century, in 1879, the founder of the F.W. Worth Company opened its first location. The owner and founder of Frank Woolworth decided that his store would follow the loss leader model, similar to what grocery stores will do with items like rotisserie chickens or other quote-unquote unbelievable deals that bring people in. For Frank, the loss leader for his store would be the cheaper and lesser in quality candy that we know today as penny candy. While Frank's store carried many other household goods, to get to these items, families would have to walk past bins and elaborate displays of candy that Frank had placed right at the front door. This practice was noticed by other local mom and pop stores, and they would have a similar display in their stores with bins of candy that the children would flock to. Prior to Frank's displays, these stores would have a penny candy area available, but not nearly the amount that Frank's stores would have, displayed right up front for people to see. It should also be noted that penny candy became popular and prevalent in the time when the Industrial Revolution was really making mechanized processing something that was easier and easier to obtain. So instead of multiple people hand-making candies, candy could be processed through the use of machinery. So we have established that candy corn is a penny candy, but what are some other popular penny candies? Popular penny candies include Tootsie Rolls, lollipops, lemon drops, and Smarties. Do you have any favorite penny candies? And did you know that candy corn has its own national day? National Candy Corn Day is on October 30th. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode. Thank you for listening today, and I hope you learned something new about candy corn. Let me know what side of the candy corn controversy you are on. Are you for candy corn or are you against candy corn? Sources for today's episode include an article from History.com titled Who Invented Candy Corn by Becky Little, an article from the Tasting Table titled The Nostalgic History of Penny Candy Stores by Lisa Curran Matte. And thank you again for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and share with a friend. If you have any questions, comments, or topic ideas, please email me at itsahistorypodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for listening to today's episode, and I hope to have you in the next one.